Your name is Jade Harley.
1, 2, 3, strike.
A nuclear imp with a canine face has tackled you to the ground just past the threshold of your home, his diminutive hands on your shoulders. He must be about 50 pounds or so, far beneath your weight limit, but he clings on with tenacity.
Get off me!
You cry, struggling back and forth, trying to buck the little guy off. You manage to slip free and toss him into the wall, scrambling to your feet. Outside, Jade Sprite hasn't noticed one of the imps has slipped inside the house, too busy fending them off. The imp barks at you, leaping at you with snarling, bared canine fangs. This time you catch it in the air with a well-timed punch, spiking him to the floor. This doesn't appear to faze the imp as he's on his feet in seconds. You look around the cluttered front room, hastily searching for a makeshift weapon. You dive for a metal baseball bat leaned against a wooden crate full of Grandpa's old clothes, but your fingertips fall short and the imp drags you down by the ankle. You cry out, kicking, but it quickly pins your arm and its maw flies at your neck, a move that looks uncannily like what Beck used to do to the squirrels he hunted. You feel warm fangs pressed onto your neck, and your life flashes in front of your eyes. Barely remembered blurry images of Grandpa, talking for hours into the night with your friends, hunting down dinner in the woods at the foot of the volcano with your lovable nuclear pooch, Beckwhirl. Nothing happens. The imp pulls back. It looks at you, confused. It whines, snarling at you in a defensive manner. You sit up, the small imp sitting on your legs, fidgeting. It jumps at your neck again, and you cry out in surprise, but again, it doesn't bite down. Your eyes meet the imp's. They're striking green, just like Grandpa. Those blurry memories of him and his kind green eyes. The eyes you inherited. The one reminder of your family. Family. Realization strikes you like a lightning bolt.
Jade!
You cry, suddenly stumbling out into the snow, waving your hands above your head. Jade Sprite whirls on you, two imps bearing down upon her as she pants with exhaustion. The imp follows you outside, confused, joining its brethren at the foot of the hill upon which your lab home sits. Jade Sprite looks baffled as the imps retreat into a huddling group below. They're all making unsure, apprehensive noises, growling and chittering, gazing up with those striking green eyes.
Look at their eyes,
you say, gripping her ghostly sleeve. Her anger and confusion turns into epiphany.
Oh my God,
she says quietly.
They're us,
you say, gazing down at the quieting group of imps. A smile breaks onto your face, and you put your hands on your hips.
They're us.
Hey, have you guys run into any imps lately?
Now that you mention it, I haven't.
I have, but they're acting weird. They look kind of afraid of me, even though I'm pretty sure they can turn me into atoms from a distance. It's creeping me out.
I can explain this one, guys. They're me.
What?
They're... you?
They're me.
Oh my God.
Okay. You keep saying that phrase as if I should understand it. Like when a dog barks at you with that dog smile they get on their faces. Don't tell Jade Sprite I said that. I'm not looking to get in bad with the canine American community. Someone please stop me from speaking more.
Dave, don't you understand? They're her!
Can someone explain this to me, the fool?
What I mean is, my sprite was prototyped with my taxidermy dream self that my grandpa had in my attic. And when we go through our first gates, the imps get powered up with the stuff we put in our sprites.
Are we just gonna breeze past the concept of a taxidermized self kept in an attic?
In other words, they have my DNA in them. Which is super weird, but mostly super good.
Wait, does that mean they're also me?
Yeah, the imps are connected to us.
Holy fuck. That's why they don't want to kill me. These motherfuckers have bits of us in them. And June's cool grandma, I guess.
Yeah.
Wait, does that mean that Bec Noir is also part us?
I'm not sure about that. Think back to the Trolls' document about their session. They still had to do battle with their Black King, even though they used their own parents to prototype their sprites. I think that this personality shift only applies to low-grade enemies. Let's not assume Bec Noir is on friendly terms.
Even so, back when I was on Prospect, Jack Noir reacted really strangely when he saw me.
The extent to which prototypings affect the disposition of our enemies will have to be an open question. I hesitate to call this a net good, since it means the demon still has the abilities of Jade's dog.
Yeah.
Let's call it a perk. Now, imps won't trouble us.
Hey, by the way, has anyone touched base with John lately? I mean, June?
No.
She's been unresponsive. I think perhaps we may have offended her by leaving her out of our scratch plans.
Yeah.
I hate to be callous. We can't spend time worrying about her. It's not like she's gonna get herself killed.
And hey, now the imps won't be bothering her. Just as long as, she doesn't go out of her way to fuck with them or anything. Haha. Your name is June Egbert. You awaken with a start on the bare ground. Around you are mounds of golden yellow architecture sticking out of the monochrome soil. The ground expands around you in a checkerboard of black and white, like a great chessboard laid over hills and lakes, a sight that would be breathtaking had you any breath left. Skaya. Presently, you're in your dream body among the wreckage of Prospet's moon. You stand woozily, your golden Prospet gown clinging to your neck from sweat. The last thing you remember before landing here is that mobster, Jack Noir, turning into a monster before your very eyes and destroying the home you never knew. Looking around the wreckage, you're struck with how lucky you were not to be crushed. Up in the sky, you see hazy outlines of Prospet's former moon floating listlessly as rubble and destruction. Some of it lazily tumbles towards Skaya, causing rumbling impacts in the distance. You remember something else. Your sister, Jade Harley, the Witch of Space, is dead. The man she was with, her grandfather, and those two people who you threw down to Skaya's surface before the kerfuffle. Where are they? Your feet begin to move before you decide on a destination. You pick up the pace, beginning to run. There's a nagging feeling at the back of your mind, that strange, incomplete sense that something was stressing you out a moment ago, but you've forgotten the cause, leaving you with only breathless, nameless anxiety. You're running across Skaya's fields now. Then you're flying, panting, chest heaving. That dapper-looking man with the woman in the lab coat you threw to Skaya's surface. You know him from somewhere. He means something to you. He is of dire, incredible importance, and the thought of seeing him again is making your eyes sting with painful tears. How could you not notice it before? You fly high above the sky and battlefield, checkered ground turning to a gray blur beneath you. You're flying above the treetops, 20 feet up or so, dodging hills and flagpoles looking over Skaya. As far as the eye can see, there is the evidence of war, from fortresses and craters in the checkerboard ground to the dead bodies of Prospedians and Dursites mingling without discrimination. Smoke rises in tendrils in every direction, like dying embers. You fly a little faster, wondering if you can find someone to ask about the whereabouts of the mystery Fedora man and his girlfriend. Soon enough, you hear the murmur of a crowd in a thicket of trees. Coming to a halt on the ground, you see a loose-knit camp of what appears to be entirely Carapacians. Both shades, Dursite and Prospedian, commingle together, sharpening weapons, speaking in friendly voices with one another. The jovial atmosphere evaporates when a guard spies you.
Halt!
Says a beefy Prospedian, pounding the butt of his lance into the ground meaningfully.
Friend or foe?
The other Carapacians gather behind the beefcake, eyeing you with suspicion. I You're not sure what to say, half ready to take flight again to avoid being a bother, but a voice cuts through the nervous chatter, silencing the group.
Who would say foe?
Asks a squeaky yet stentorian Dursite, stepping out from behind the large Prospidian. You watch as a short-statured Dursite walks towards you confidently, holding a hand in a friendly greeting. Baffled, you shake it.
My name is the war-weary Villain, at your service. You are the heir of breath, yes?
A mutterance of surprise ripples through the gathered throng, about 36 or so Carapacians exchanging shocked looks.
I think so, you say hesitantly. My name is June. What's going on here?
The Villain releases your hand, indicating to his comrades with a beaming smile. Around his body is wrapped a fine white robe, complete with a sash of yellow and purple stripes, made of Dursite and Prospidian flags woven together.
This,
the Villain proclaims,
is the camp of the heretic secessionists and turncoat war-weary traitors.
The Villain puffs out his chest.
We are a cadre of Carapacians sick of living under the thumb of the monarchy.
Hold on,
cries the large Prospidian from the front of the crowd, scratching his head.
I thought we were the heretic secessionists and dissidents. It's a much more elegant title.
You watch as the Dursite and Prospidian face each other down. The Villain puts his hands on his hips.
And which one of us is wearing the democracy sash,
Challenges the WV.
The war-weary Villain? Or the battle-hardened spearsman?
The two Carapacians stand eye to eye for a moment, before a sudden roar erupts from the crowd.
Vote!
They cry as in rabid jubilation. Weapons are suddenly tossed to the ground as each Carapacian slides into file, 3 neat rows in front of the bonfire. All you can do is stare slack-jawed.
Very well. All in favor of the turncoat war-weary traitors, say aye,
cries WV. There's a cry of aye from several dozen Carapacians.
And all in favor of the dissidents, say aye,
cries BS. There's a large but less loud cry of aye from the crowd.
That's 13 for turncoat war-weary traitors and 4 for dissidents,
says WV smugly. BS appears defeated, but he shakes hands with WV.
Democracy!
The crowd proclaims with solemn intensity. The Villain adjusts his sash, turning back to you, who closes your mouth.
As I was saying, Miss Eyre,
the Villain puts his hands on his hips and puffs out his chest self-importantly.
The turncoat war-weary traitors are expecting to join forces with several other groups around here to face down the wicked scoundrel who's proclaimed himself the new tyrant of Skya. Can we count on your aid?
You shuffle your feet nervously. You have a strong sense that this is a side quest that you do not have time to indulge in.
Well, I really like this whole democracy thing you've got going, but I'm in the middle of looking for someone. I see, says the WV sadly. Perhaps we can count on you once your goal is complete. Who are you looking for?
Well, he's a man about a head taller than I am, wearing a fedora. He's probably traveling with a woman with white hair. You speak, and a hush falls over the crowd. Suddenly, the entire company of Carapacians bows low. Founder, one murmurs. Our founder, another stammers softly. Even the battle-hardened spearsman bows his head suddenly.
Oh, you speak of Jonathan Egbert, our founder, says WV with a grave solemnity. He imparted his democratic ways upon us before departing for Castle Black at the south pole of Skya.
Is that far? You ask with sudden excitement. That name, Jonathan Egbert. It sparks an anxious feeling in you again. The WV points a solitary finger. In the distance, you see a dark black spire peeking out over the curve of the horizon.
On foot, it would take a day, but with your powers of flight, you may catch up to our founder yet.
WV clasps your hand.
If you meet him, would you impart a message for me?
Oh, sure, you say hesitantly. The small Carapacian's eyes shimmer with earnest tears as he speaks.
Tell him to enjoy his date.
You fly away from the camp of heretic secessionists and turncoat war-weary traitors, feeling a mix of confusion and excitement. Castle Black approaches slowly, the featureless landscape below becoming more and more barren as you make your approach. The air seems to become more still, too, the only sound of that wind whipping your face as you fly. The sensation of your own heartbeat grows heavier in your chest with each passing moment.
Wake up.
You blink. Did you just hear something in your mind? You shake your head, trying to clear it. Is someone near you? You look over your shoulder, seeing only bare blue sky. When you look back down, you do a double take. Along the black and white grass far below, you see a peculiar sight. A boat with a single sail skimming across the ground. Its flat bottom skidding against blue-colored gusts of wind. As you stare, your heart hammers in your chest. In the boat are two figures, a tall human man and a woman.
Wake up.
The voice echoes in your head once again, but you shake it free and drop into a free fall, wind whipping your hair, eyes stinging as you let gravity pull you towards the boat. Your mouth opens and you shout, a sudden word pulled from your subconscious and into the air, carried on the blue streak wind. Dad! The man looks up, holding his fedora down as not to lose it in the breeze.
Wake up!
The voice echoes once more, and you disappear into nothingness. Your waking body has been dragged into consciousness. The man and his date stare up from the wind boat into the empty sky.
Did you hear that, Roxanne?
He asks, hope staining his words. You are no longer June Egbert.
Your name is Dave Strider. Presently, you're embroiled in what is formerly known by the Lohack Stock Exchange as temporal securities fraud. You began with a boon dollar, but now you've secured yourself your first boon buck, equal in value to exactly 1 bajillion boon dollars, a number that is apparently real. The amount of time for you has been several hours, but to outside observers, those hours have been compressed into a single 60-minute span of time in which you weaved in and out of time loops, getting advice from your future selves, then becoming those future selves to give the same advice to your past selves. You've decided to take a break from the balancing act.
So your plan is securities fraud.
No, it's time manipulation.
I think it's still securities fraud if you have time powers.
What are you, my fucking lawyer?
I could be.
Oh, right. It'll be fine either way, though. These crocs are like babies, Terezi. They talk in Godfather accents. They're entirely unserious.
You seem pretty serious about paying them off. Why not use your time powers to fight against the salamanders?
I don't know, they seem strong.
Okay, and? You have the capabilities to create infinite versions of yourself. Someone on my team did the same thing and was able to hold off Bec Noir.
You mean Aradia? I've chatted with her. Or my alternate self has.
Exactly. What's stopping you from doing an Aradia?
I don't like fighting.
You don't?
Yeah, it's a fact about myself I've just decided. Fighting sucks. Every time it happens, I get hurt and confused.
That's idiotic. Fighting is the point of life.
You have a pretty shitty society if that's what you really believe, dude. Look, I don't know why I'm justifying myself to a paradox murderer.
You sigh. You're sitting on a bench in the linoleum-floored bank, grateful to have a moment of linear time to yourself. The teller, a small crocodile, is watching you with terror on his face. From his perspective, over the past hour, several hundred clones of you have just spawned into existence, used the stock kiosk, then evaporated. That would make any crimson reptile nervous. You wave at the teller.
Let's not talk about fighting anymore. How would you like to become my lawyer? What the fuck does that mean? Is that an emoticon?
Yes, it is my horns. Then an elaboration double dot to represent my eye. Then a query curve to represent my questioning face.
I'm gonna move on from how idiotic that is and clarify myself before I get dragged into an argument. Be my lawyer. If the shit I'm doing is so illegal, then I might need someone to defend me in court. Or at least advise me how to make my dealings appear less illegal. I think the croc working the teller counter is onto me. Okay, does that emoticon mean that you're actually making evil eyebrows, like underneath your horns?
You're catching on, Dave.
Does that mean you'll be my lawyer?
I don't usually deal in securities fraud, but I can give you a hand. I can also organize your time travel to be more efficient.
Sick.
I do have a fee, Dave the Human. Don't forget.
Okay. I'm flushing boons right now, name it.
I don't want your boon bucks. I want trust. If I help you, you have to trust me.
That's not how trust works. Trust isn't transactional, it's like an emotion.
Then you have to pretend you trust me.
Okay. You stand up, cracking your knuckles. You walk to the bank teller, who flinches away from you slightly when you lean down to meet his gaze, nearly having to crouch to speak with him, since he's only about 3 feet tall. Hey dude, you say casually. I think I'm outgrowing this little rinky-dinky kiosk. Where can a money-moving son of a bitch like myself gain access to a more direct means of exchanging stocks and or bonds?
The
crocodile swallows.
The Lohack Stock Exchange? Main office? It's in the middle of town.
Thanks, you say, ambling towards the middle of town. Your name is no longer Dave Strider.
Your name is Thelonious Chomps, the bank teller. You stare after the strange human in sunglasses as he walks out of the bank where you work. You've been employed here for 6 months, but that's enough time to make some conclusions about his behavior. First of all, this is textbook time fraud. He's clearly been getting advice from his future selves and using it to make investment decisions. A terrible weight settles on your shoulders as you realize you are now responsible for reporting this to someone. What makes you more uneasy is the fact that you, Thelonious Chomps, just told him where to go do more time fraud. You swallow, your croc teeth shattering. Oh, fuck. You rush from your desk, your clawed feet clacking against linoleum, shoving open the door to your boss's office.
Thelonious, my boy,
says your boss, Mr. Antonio Crocodrillo, in a fake Godfather accent. We've got a big problem, you squeak. Mr. Crocodrillo narrows his already narrow eyes, but you force yourself to continue speaking. It's about a human wearing sunglasses.
Go on,
he says, a rumbling growl in his throat. You are no longer Thelonious Chomps.
Your name is Jonathan Egbert. The trek to Castle Black was rather long, even in spite of the serendipitous acquisition of a land skiff. But one glance at your traveling companion, and you resolve that you could travel around Skya twice more. You've only known her for a short time, but you feel a stirring desire to know more about her. It's been so long since you've had a crush. In her eyes, you can see she feels the same. Or at least something similar, you hope. Up you go, you say, holding out a hand for Roxanne at the top of the stairs at the castle's entrance. She makes an exaggerated swoon and you bow graciously, grinning like a much younger man. Within is a simple structure, a massive open area with turrets and interior towers from which archers could no doubt fire safely from. In the middle is a massive stone staircase spiraling into the ceiling, several stories high. The view from up there is probably incredible, you say idly. Roxanne looks doubtful about the stairs, but nods in agreement.
The walk is going to kill my back, so you better be right,
she replies with a smile. After a moment's rest, you begin the ascent. You're pushing 40, and while you don't dare ask Roxanne her age, you assume she's in the same boat as you, vis-a-vis back pain onset by massive stair treks. Soon enough, both of you are panting. Each footfall is heavy, and by the time you're at the top of the dozen or so flights, your collar is damp, and Roxanne has discarded her kitten-heeled boots.
Fuck.
She groans, leaning forward onto her knees to catch her breath.
This view? If it isn't effulgent, I am going to kill you.
She stands, hands on her lower back.
'Cause guess what, smart guy? We gotta walk down those two.
See for yourself, you say, taking her hand. You guide her to the edge of the obsidian stones and look out across the sweeping landscape. A checkerboard globe spans out over the horizon,
dotted with trees and smoke and bright sunless blue sky. To call it otherworldly would be redundant, and to call it beautiful would fall short, the billowing clouds high above shimmering with movie-like projections of parts unknown. Skya, so beautiful, yet so barren. Roxanne falls silent, leaning her head on your shoulder. For a long moment, you don't say a word. Before long, you and Roxanne are breathing as one. You both turn from the vista, arranging nearby chairs and tables that had been strewn about, laying out a bottle of wine pilfered from the kindly WV fellow, and 2 plain glasses that she wipes off with her lab coat. The wine is a deep red, and the glass she pours herself is fuller than yours.
Well, this is nice,
Roxanne concedes after open-mouth swallowing half of her glass.
Rosie would have loved it up here. She loves black and dark stuff. Real edgy kid.
John would have too. He would have taken the stairs 2 at a time. He always wanted to prove himself. A pang of sadness sours the comfortable mood. Roxanne sees this, and her hand is on yours. The table you found is narrow, no doubt used for small groups to look at maps and charts and whatnot, narrow enough that you could lean forward to touch her forehead to yours. You gaze into her twinkling, pale pink eyes.
Do you think they're okay?
Roxanne asks quietly. Haven't the foggiest, you admit. She pours herself another glass of wine.
Do you think they're worried about us?
She asks. Part of me hopes they're thinking about their poor parents, but another part of me wants to tell them we're okay, and they shouldn't worry. You gently take the wine glass from her.
Yeah.
Roxanne agrees. The still air creates a blanket-like quiet. Nothing more needs to be said, but you decide to say something stupid anyway. I'm not married, you know. You clear your throat. Roxanne gawks at you, then scoffs a laugh.
I hope the fuck you aren't,
she says plainly. Why not? You feel your cheeks warm. Roxanne rolls her eyes with a knowing smirk, and then closes the small gap of the table, pressing her lips to yours. They taste like wine and lip gloss, and you're sure some of the color she uses will rub off on you. Good. You kiss her back, and when you part, you fall silent. For those delicious moments, everything is all right in Paradox Space. Thank you for listening to Homestuck Alternate Universe. HSAU is sponsored by contributions from viewers like you. To learn more, go to patreon.com/funkmclovin. This episode was directed, recorded, and edited by Funk McLovin. The cast, in no particular order: AE as Terezi, articulately composed as Rose and Mom, Bucky as Carcat, Captain Lazar as Jack Noir, Eclipi as Gamzee and Equius, Janaya as Kanaya and Jade, Pakin as Tavros, Technically Dead as Solix, Harper as Vriska, Shrimp as Nepeta, and West as Pfeffery. Art by Sunny Dionysus, Gastro, and Clown's Kiss. Supplemental art by Funk McLovin, based on characters by Andrew Hussie. Special thanks to Daft Class, Yo It's Crow, and Andrew Hussie. Homestuck Alternate Universe is not affiliated with What Pumpkin or Viz Media. To read Homestuck's original webcomic, please go to homestuck.com or bambosh.dev/unofficial-homestuck-collection. Thank you.